Something is missing, and you have to find it. It has to do with Special Agent Dale Cooper.
Welcome to the Rewatchers in the Lodge, where we watch Twin Peaks. And we just started season 3 of Twin Peaks, watched parts 1 and 2. I am Tyler Harris, here with
Marcus Marinos,
Riley Harris,
Tyler McKinley,
Mitchell Marshall,
Justin Hammer.
And as previously stated, we just barely watched part 1. My log has a message for you, written by Mark Frost and David Lynch, directed by David Lynch, and released or aired May 21st, 2017. And part 2, The Stars Turn and a Time Presents Itself, written by Mark Frost and David Lynch, directed by David Lynch, and aired May 21st, 2017. And just to get out of the way, every single episode is written by Mark Frost and David Lynch and directed by David Lynch. And I'm going to say it every time because it feels so good.
You gotta have continuity.
Yeah.
I'm a little sad they didn't bring back Mr. Deschanel, but whatever.
Yeah. I mean, that is a tragedy. Who knows? Maybe we'll see him. There's 9 million characters in this show. But if you haven't watched, do not worry. Mitchell has got you covered here to break down every single moment that happened in parts 1 and 2 of season 3 of Twin Peaks. Mitchell, take it away.
Let's go. Laura tells Cooper she'll see him in 25 years. Presumably 25 years later, the Giant and Cooper listen to a gramophone in the Black Lodge in black and white. Cooper says he understands a bunch of cryptic shit. Dr. Jacoby gets a shipment of shovels, presumably for his own Camp Green Lake. In New York City, a guy sits in a large concrete room and looks through a porthole at the city. He adjusts cameras as directed by an intercom voice. Outside, Pretty Lady Tracy brings him coffee and asks to come in, but he's told it's top secret. She's bummed and tries to spy the entry code. The guard gives her a stern stare. At the Great Northern, Groovy Jerry chows on a drug-filled banana bread while Ben does business. Lucy is as unhelpful as ever. Leather Jacket Cooper visits Abuela's cabin of weirdos to pick up Ray and Daria. In New York City, Tracy is back with more coffee and the guard is gone. In porthole room, the guy tells her his job is to watch the LED lit glass box around the porthole. Then they strip down and proceed to bang, but while they're doing that, the glass box goes opaque with a glitchy alien figure breaking out and stabbing them to death. That's a boner killer, but I'm glad I didn't have to waste time learning his name. Just kidding, he comes back. Marjorie and her dog report a bad smell coming from Ruth Davenport's apartment. This is somewhere in North Dakota. The police come and find her dead with an eye gouged out and her head severed off next to someone else's body. Log Lady calls in with her log message for Hawk, something to do with his heritage and Dale Cooper. South Dakota Buckhorn police find a local principal's fingerprints all over Ruth's apartment. Dave arrests him, a.k.a. Bill, a.k.a. Shaggy. Cooper has been missing for 24 plus years, a.k.a. before Wally was born on Marlon Brando's birthday. Bill denies knowing Ruth or being to her home ever. Cops search Bill's house. In his Volvo, they find a bloody piece of meat. Bill tells his wife he had a dream about being at the apartment but was never there. Then they both expose each other's affairs that they both apparently knew about. They should probably move to Twin Peaks. She's smug as hell and tells Bill's lawyer, George, that Bill knows about their affair. A ghost with the plague in an adjacent cell to Bill drifts away. Evil Cooper is waiting. When Bill's wife gets home, he tells her that she follows human nature perfectly and then shoots her with lawyer George's gun. In Las Vegas, a swarmy guy gives Roger stacks of cash to give to a new employee. Roger questions the swarmy guy's loyalty to some dude. It makes no sense. Train crossing. Cooper, Ray, Daria, and a homeless guy talk about some important info at a diner. Hawk is in the woods talking to ominous log lady who invites him over for coffee and pie. Hawk finds the Black Lodge entrance, kind of. Good Coop sits in the empty waiting room with one-armed Mike, who vanishes. Laura saunters in and tells Cooper he can go out now. She takes off her face, then kisses him, and then whispers in his ear. She then screams and is taken up in a shaky scene. The curtain raises, and all we see is a white horse. Back in the waiting room, it's normal again, and Mike and Cooper walk away to a weird brain tree, a.k.a. the arm. Cooper is told his doppelganger has to return before he can leave. Evil Dale Cooper, a.k.a. Gene Simmons Dale Cooper, squishes homeless Jack's face at a storage unit. Daria hangs up as Evil Coop walks into their motel room. Ray didn't show up to the meeting. Grindhouse Cooper grabs her gun, and as Daria fondles his snakeskin shirt, he admits to killing Jack, then plays a tape of Ray and Daria planning to kill him. Fonzie Cooper says he is supposed to go back into the Black Lodge tomorrow, but has a plan not to. He shows up at Daria. He shows Daria an ace of spades with a blotched dog head on it. Then he smothers her face and shoots her. Philip Jeffries calls and tells Evil Cooper that he knows he talked to Major Briggs and he has to go back into the Black Lodge tomorrow. The arm tree says Bob, and tells Cooper to go now, but the way out seems locked. Leland Palmer's in the waiting room and says, find Laura. Mike says something is wrong in the waiting room statues in the hallway. Good Cooper opens the curtain to see Bad Cooper on the highway. The arm's evil doppelganger attacks. The floor opens and a Good Cooper lands on top of the glass of the observation box in New York, then floats inside the porthole. The observation guy and Tracy are apparently alive, deja vuing in the hallway. Cooper sent to the Twilight Zone. Sarah Palmer watches lions eat their prey on a giant-ass TV. And then at the Bang Bang Bar, Shelley starts taking shots, and Tweaker T-Bird James shows up.
Oh, that's it. That's where it ends.
Is that where it ends?
Yeah, what an
More
abrupt ending. Weird.
I thought it was going to keep going.
But you didn't mention that James is still cool because he
has
he's
always been cool, guys.
Fucking cool. I don't want to hear another word about
Shelley
it.
didn't really interact with James.
That's
why she. That's why Riley really had that one covered.
Oh, boy.
That's why
Never
she's
heard
so
a monologue
misinformed.
before.
Yeah.
Wow.
She hasn't. She obviously didn't listen to the radio back in the '90s and hear his hit song, "You and I."
Maybe that was the inspiration for the Lady Gaga hit, You and I.
Probably. How could it not be?
I have
no
no
one else
idea.
would ever think to combine those words in that way. I don't think.
I don't-
That's
yeah,
a
it's
James
not-
original. Great. Well, let's talk about it. Let's start with some familiar faces that we just briefly see. Jacoby. Just
What a great introduction.
Super quick.
Fucking, I'm like, all right, who's this guy? Takes off his glasses. Oh, fuck yeah! Psyched.
I think it's such a great moment. And honestly, we talked about this as Secret History. Now every time I see those glasses, I'm like, he's wearing those because it gives his brain superpowers.
Yeah.
Like it's so great. Yeah, that's a great moment. And it's super long. And then we just fade into the next thing.
Yeah.
Like,
Until I reread this, I totally forgot we see him.
yeah.
There's a few things that happen at the beginning that's like we don't really touch on again for, almost 2 hours.
Right, yeah. Yeah, for sure.
He's kind of possibly fallen on some hard times. He no longer has
Possibly,
his
yeah.
house.
I think he likes his space.
I mean, yeah, that's why I was wondering if it's more of like he just wanted to get out in the wilderness more, or if he like has failed at being a doctor, because obviously everyone who tries to help just their lives crumble anyway.
Yeah. Well, I'll
I mean, that's probably psychiatrist in the hole, but like
yikes. Shots across the bow and any psychiatrist listening. Yeah, I actually need to check before I say anything because there's some information about him. I can't remember if it's in the final dossier or if it's in the Secret History though. So I'll touch that. I'll bring it up again next week if we can.
the shovels are important though. We got to remember
Sure.
those, right?
We'll see him again.
Oh.
So let's talk
If we
about.
didn't, I'd be pissed. Yeah, what a thread to drop.
Let's talk about the Horn brothers because we see them, and we also see Ashley Judd. Is that her? Yeah, that's her name, right? Okay, I can't remember. There's multiple Judd sisters,
Yes.
right? I couldn't pick them out, but
No,
I know that
couldn't.
that's
they're
one
like
of them.
supposed to be famous, but no one actually really knows who they are.
Is
Right,
she
they're super
is she
famous.
his assistant?
Yeah, she's the assistant.
Was she in the last season?
No.
Oh, okay.
no.
She's
No,
she's
she's a
brand
new
new character.
She's
yeah,
new.
new character.
Okay.
They just got a famous person to play her.
Yeah,
Or unknown.
Oh, I wasn't aware who she was.
yeah,
I knew she was a familiar face, but when you said Ashley, I was like, oh, yeah.
yeah. I couldn't tell you what else she was in, but whatever. She's fun. That horn scene I think is really great. Some things just don't change, like, and it's Jerry Horn. He's pretty much the same, just more high, I think, than we are used to seeing him. And I think it's a great. That's one of the things I think going into this show is like, how do you update a show like Twin Peaks that is about this sleepy small town? And it's like, oh, you make one of the major businessmen in town now a man who grows and sells marijuana in a now legal state. Like, of course, that makes perfect sense.
His beard and everything is such a good move for his zany character.
Yeah, yeah, he's great. I will say one of my favorite moments in these first 2 episodes is the way that scene just abruptly ends with them being like, is that Mother's hat? And it's cut away.
It's good. It's good to see that Ben Horn has resisted that strong urge to do evil still. That he's like, that is a woman, and we respect. And yeah, oh my gosh, the respect references.
Oh my god!
R-E-S-P-E-C-T.
Suck it to me, suck it.
And then his
This is
response
so good,
using
yeah.
it back was pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, he is back to smoking cigars. He's not chomping on carrots anymore, so I don't know. We might still see Bad Ben.
Yeah, maybe.
We'll see.
Maybe he'll reenact a different war.
Who knows? We've had several since then. So.
I'll be America. I'm going to fight ISIS. Let's do it.
I mean, if we are playing the Ben Horn game, he will be ISIS. That's the way he plays
Could
wars.
be Colin Powell. I don't know.
Have you seen Vice? All right.
So and then we see Shelley and James briefly just
All
hanging out
too
at the
briefly.
Roadhouse. Yeah. James is hanging out with some kid, some younger dude, whatever.
Who I'm gonna guess is Wally. Is that the name
Okay.
of their son?
Well, he's
of
supposed to be
the-
25, though. I don't know. That kid looked pretty young.
I mean, have you seen some
Andy and
25-year-olds
Lucy's
lately?
son?
That's true.
Whose son?
Yeah,
Andy
Andy
and
and
Lucy's
Lucy's.
Okay, right.
That was my first thought. Now you guys are making
But
me
no,
doubt
no,
that
I
pretty
just-
heavily.
No, that's
Spoiler
it.
alert: we have not seen Wally.
Okay.
Okay.
You will know.
Okay. I just figured he was wearing one glove. He's weird.
It's weird. Yes,
He
absolutely.
was wearing a glove. I thought it was a Hulk hand. I was like, this guy's awesome.
I thought it was a what?
A Hulk hand.
I got this for Christmas. I loved Age of Ultron.
That's how he gets past. That's why he doesn't have to show his ID.
Yeah, he's got to be
They're
prepared
like, oh,
at
you're
the
wearing a
bar.
Hulk hand.
Yeah.
You absolutely
Badass.
should be
Don't make
drinking
me
alcohol
use
tonight.
this.
Yeah, so we see them briefly. Anything that kind of sticks out to that? There is some we get a little bit of a glimpse of Shelley's life. Possibly, she mentions her daughter is dating some guy that we don't really know that
She
she
has a
doesn't like.
daughter.
Who's the father?
Who is the father? Who knows?
We haven't seen Bobby yet.
We have not seen Bobby.
Haven't seen Bobby.
I hope she went on Mari to figure out who the father was.
And I was thinking that James was actually looking at Shelley and not
Some that
Shelley's
other
hot
chick.
friend.
the other girl.
Yeah,
That's the vibe I got, at least. I don't know what you guys think.
yeah,
Yeah.
That's fair. That's fair.
Which could, I mean, if James has to fight Bobby, I'm here for
Back
that.
to classic Twin Peaks.
Classic.
Classic. And then we also get a glimpse of the Twin Peaks Sheriff Department. No
Sheriff
sheriff.
list.
We don't see a sheriff. Yeah.
Which Sheriff Truman?
Yeah.
Yeah, Lucy
There's
says
multiple.
that's very
multiple.
interesting.
Maybe Sheriff Truman settled down and married, and his spouse also became a sheriff. And
He's
they're
In the
both
same
sheriffs.
town.
In the same town, yeah.
We're co-sheriffing, but one is
amazing.
sick and one is
Maybe
fishing.
maybe it's his doppelganger that
Yeah.
somehow also got out at the same
Yeah.
time, even though we've established that's a rule that they can't do that.
But it's a Scott Pilgrim
did
situation
it.
where they actually
If they're
end
cool
up
with
getting
each
along.
other, they
yeah.
get to. Yeah.
the cloning facility is back and real, and they cloned their sheriff because so much has happened.
Yes.
You know, they're like,
Oh,
we need
yes.
two of these
Necessity
guys.
now.
We had 2 murders last year. How are we supposed to handle that?
I hope they also hired some younger deputies because right now it looks like the same exact department we left 25
Like when
years
these
ago.
people die, this town is in trouble.
I mean, the town will die too because everyone is old.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah. We haven't seen. Well, I mean, the Roadhouse seems to be
Yeah.
hopping
Yeah.
in a way that
Oh.
we have yet to see
Knows,
it
yeah.
happen. So
It's because you know what? All those kids are there for drugs and doing. They're all going the way of Laura. You know what?
But now it's Molly instead of cocaine.
yes, I thought you were talking about maybe a specific person.
yeah. It's Molly, the
Now it's
daughter
Molly's
of.
Oh, it's been 25 years. Yeah, like there have been lots of murders. We just don't
So
know
many.
about them.
So many. So we see we see the log lady. What do you guys think about the Hawk and log lady stuff? I guess just anything at the sheriff's department that we haven't talked about. Because there's a couple scenes there I guess we could talk about. But
So I found it interesting that, and I don't know if this is anything or just a weird production thing, the log lady calls Hawk by calling the front desk when he's at the police station. But then she has a direct, she knows his cell phone number.
Right.
And chooses to call his cell phone when he's in the woods. Now, when it cuts back to her, she has 2 landline phones on her desk next to her.
I didn't even notice
I didn't
that.
notice
Yeah,
Yeah,
she
I
does
saw
have
that.
a phone.
She has an older looking black one, and then she has that fancy modern but still corded home
Yeah.
phone.
Is that the one that she's using in both of those? Because
Yes.
the receiver is kind of weird looking.
But there's
You
just
can
that
see
second one
looking.
behind it, kind of.
She couldn't let it go.
Yeah.
Maybe she's using it as a stand for her new phone. Like, you know how old people just like put their new TVs on their old TVs? That's what she's doing with her phone.
Or like when people would get their own lines, like when teenagers would get their own like phone line, that phone line is the logs phone line. And that's where it gets
The
all its
logs
tips.
line.
Like she's like, I'm tired of delivering your messages. I'm getting you this phone, but she still just ends up she's like, fine. This is the fucking last time calling Hawk. It's gonna
You
get
this
the
nice
wrong idea.
phone.
Yeah. No, that's absolutely cracked the case there.
All the Log Lady Hawk stuff, though, just confusing. Just don't know. But I mean,
continually
he gets
cryptic.
to like we see. I don't know if he sees, but presume he kind of saw some red curtains floating around. He's by the whole the circle of
Glastonbury
trees.
Grove.
Yeah, Glastonbury Grove with the little spot where generally there's the entrance, and we kind of know it's. It seems like there was a time limit on Bob being in Coop's body. But while he's been wreaking havoc, it hasn't been, and we'll get to him, but it's been outside of Twin Peaks. So as far as like Hawk is concerned, it was very interesting to see Andy and Hawk's temperament when like the name Cooper started to creep up.
Yeah, for sure.
Remind me when we get to Black Lodge stuff. Got a theory
Okay.
about the Grove.
Okay,
Remind me
cool. But yeah, so I think one of the important things that the log lady does mention, she just mentions something is missing. Doesn't really say what. We know that Dale Cooper has been missing for a little over 24 years. We kind of get the idea, and
so it's because we know he did come back, like he was
Right.
around. So it sounds like he stuck around for maybe 8 months.
possibly, yeah, and we do know from the secret history, and it's brought up very briefly here when Mr. I'll call him Mr. C because that's what I can't remember that guy's name. What that guy calls him. But when Mr. C is on the phone with who he thinks is Philip Jeffries, we'll talk about that too. He mentions, like the guy on the other end mentions, I know you met with Garland Briggs, which we know, we kind of talked about that at the very end of the secret history. He does come to meet with Garland Briggs, and after he leaves, Garland Briggs initiates some kind of protocol because he feels that something is wrong. So don't know what that is, but that is brought up again and kind of tied to that. So yeah, let's go through some of the new people and locations that we're introduced to.
Vegas, baby.
Vegas!
Man, we see it all over America.
Yeah, true.
This is very
South
new for
Dakota
Twin
and
Peaks
Nevada.
because in the old season it was all just Twin Peaks.
Right, yeah.
We
Almost and Canada. Don't
And
forget
Canada.
Cross
yeah.
that border.
But like we have so many new locations in this.
Yeah.
And whereas in the first couple seasons, it was almost exclusively Twin Peaks in Canada, and I'm trying to think of any other places.
I mean, if you count Firewalk with Me, you get that other town, but
And Philadelphia briefly. That's where the FBI
oh,
office
right.
is. And
Argentina, if you're talking about the missing.
All right, okay, all right.
But
There's-
but you're right. That's I
We spent more time in these first 2 episodes than the first 30 some episodes spent. Yeah.
And
I
also
mean,
we're
we spend-
introduced to some of those places before Twin Peaks. Like we see some of those places.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we spend
Which is
more time
crazy.
outside of Twin Peaks in this first 2 episodes than we do in Twin Peaks.
Yeah, for sure.
Which was honestly a little frustrating. I know I'm sure it will pay off, but coming into this being so excited for like the 3rd season, I could see other people like when it first aired being a little bummed by that because
You want to spend time with those
the new
people.
stuff is interesting and I do want to know what happens, but I'm like, but those are my old friends. I came to hang out with them. I didn't come to meet new people. Like,
Yeah, for sure.
Can we do? I want to do Vegas, then South Dakota, then New York, because New York really leads into Cooper pretty well.
Yeah, let's do that.
So Vegas is super brief. We get a guy at a desk who I find familiar, but he's never been in Twin Peaks, right?
No,
he's just
but he's
familiar
been in
from
a
other
lot of stuff. He's been in other. Has a brief role in Mulholland Drive that's really great.
Interesting.
But yeah, he's in a lot of stuff. He's very
He
recognizable.
plays weird well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's got a unique look for sure,
does, yeah.
and I like his performance. Like we get him for a very brief moment, but he's good. I like
All
him.
we really hear is that he had some cash, and apparently he is answering to someone he doesn't like. The guy who seems to be a subordinate, straight up like, "Why are you working for this dude?" And he's like, "Don't ever work for a dude like I'm working."
Yeah, and he says, he gives his employee the money. He says, "Tell her she has the job."
Yeah.
Which is another cryptic. hints. I will say in these episodes, so many names get thrown around. It almost feels like a gag at some point. Is like you're hearing so many names constantly, and very like a lot of the times those names don't get connected to people that you see. Like
I was trying to write them down, and then when those people died, I was like, oh well, that didn't matter. That I remember Tracy's name.
yeah.
But I'm gonna go out on a limb for Vegas. I think the man is Cooper, and I think the woman is Audrey.
Okay.
Wait,
Okay.
what? The man in the
His boss is Cooper,
oh,
The Las Vegas
and the
guy.
woman they're gonna hire is Audrey.
Mr.
Oh.
Todd, I believe.
I
is
would
the
still
man.
like to see Audrey. I hope she got involved in some shit, man. I hope this shit got real for her.
Well, we'll talk about it. I'm sure. Yeah. So let's move on to Buckhorn, which spent a lot of time in Buckhorn.
Yeah.
And
And we don't really get a direct connection, do we? Oh, until Evil Cooper shows up and shoots Bill's wife.
Right.
But otherwise, we do not know what this is.
And they're also Mr. C is also tied to. It needs some information from Bill Hastings' secretary.
And not need wants.
Want.
Yeah.
Yes.
He wants some
Yes.
information.
Doesn't need anything.
He doesn't need anything.
This is what he needs: a scratched up card with a weird drawing on it. So yeah, what I mean, this is kind of, if we're gonna attach this to old Twin Peaks, this is the outright murder where the authorities get involved and we don't know. You know what I mean? Like, this is the closest thing we have to a Laura Palmer type mystery, I guess, at this point, other than Laura Palmer herself continuing to be a fucking mystery, which we'll talk about. But yeah, what do you guys think about that stuff? Were there any memorable moments kind of in there for you guys?
It's fun to see because I was expecting a lot of the original cast, but then I didn't know any new people who were going to be in it. And then like Matthew Lillard showed up, and I was like, "Oh, cool! Like this is cool." And he does a great job.
so
He does a
good.
really
Looks
good
like such
job.
a good middle-aged principal, man.
He really does.
Yeah.
When he first comes to the door, he's like, "What's up, buddy?" Like, to this
I was like,
other-
"Oh, I know this guy."
yeah, exactly, for sure.
Him and his wife, the way that they like their exchange in the jail cell, like it takes because where they are previous just to like this happy innocent thing, and the way it devolves so quickly, it's really well done. I think.
Yeah,
They're everything with those two characters feels the most Twin Peaks to me. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, even just storyline wise, him getting arrested, there is reminiscent of scenes of like them taking Leland in,
Right,
and
yeah.
Ben Horn in. Felt very familiar that way. Also, just some of the directing of the performances there, particularly the scene Mitchell just mentioned, feels very like, oh, this is Twin Peaks Lynch
It
again.
got Lynchian.
yeah. I love that scene. I love the interrogation scene with him. I think Matthew Lillard plays it so well. Like that when he just brings up Ruth Davenport's name at the beginning, he's like, "Oh, huh." You know, it's just it's so he's a terrible liar, and it's very good. It's such
It's
a great
so
moment.
impressive. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know her at all.
Yeah. And I think in as far as scenes that feel like Twin Peaks, the scene where the cops first show up at Ruth Davenport's apartment and are trying to get into the
Yes.
apartment.
Oh, that was-
is
That's a
such
great scene.
Yeah, that's such a like Lynch and Frost moment. Like those are the scenes that I feel like you get when they collaborate.
Like such
on
a
writing
simple
something.
problem that becomes overly complicated
Yeah.
because some stupid person does something.
And there's just some guy in the alleyway that the cops start talking to that clearly does not want to be talking to the cops at that moment. Like,
Who called you?
yeah, and then it turns out she's had the key the whole time and they get in. Like, that's such a fun.
And that one cop, he seemed very Twin Peaksy to me. Of like him just, I can't remember what is it. Oh, did he always say oh or something like that?
yeah, he says it a couple times. Yeah,
And-
I think when they first see the body, and then when they pull the sheet down and realize there's a body that does not correspond to the head that is there as well.
I think in whatever. What is it
Buckhorn?
called? Buckhorn.
Yeah.
We also get like they're pointing into the trunk with the flashlight, and it just won't.
Oh my
That was-
goodness! Right.
This show is clearly just so much more consistent than Twin Peaks so far. That just having a little bit of that moment, I was like, oh, there's some of the fun.
Yeah.
David Lynch.
Yeah, for sure. and it's that same gag.
The lamp. The
Yes, exactly. It was in the morgue in season 1. It was the lamp at Haps in Fire Walk with Me, and it's great because it's always referenced in World and justified for the most mundane reason. Like,
It's just broke.
Getting it fixed.
My flashlight's broke.
I'm taking it into the shop.
But yeah, I really like that main detective, Dave Mackley. He's like not really a quirky character at all. He's pretty straight, but he just feels pretty real to me. I don't know. There's something about him that I really enjoy.
I feel like the weight of the situation, because he knows this guy. He says like he's known him since high school or whatever, and he just is just like, I've got to deal with this shit. Like, it's so heavy for him.
Yeah,
And
I connected with that by imagine taking you in.
Oh yeah.
I was like, man, that'd be hard.
Yeah,
And you guys are neighbors, so it'd be even weirder on another level. But yeah, so that I think is great. I like. I also really like Constance, who is the coroner. I'd assume kind of is what she is. She's the one that has the clipboard and stuff, and they have that small moment when Dave comes in and he's like, "Hey, Constance," just holds up his hands to show her that he's got gloves on. And she's like, "Behaving yourself." Just that, like, establishing that little relationship, I feel like is so economical. Like, it's just so quick, and you get this like a lot of stuff there.
I think you rarely see that. Like, that makes me feel foolish for my writing. I'm just like, how do I not explain things that simply and but it's still fun?
Yeah, no, for sure. Those are really cool moments. Yeah, anything else with Buckhorn? Oh, let's talk about the Spectre or whatever.
Yeah.
That is in the cell just a couple doors down from
that was
good old Bill.
You mentioned last time we talked about the woman in the trailer park that in Fire Walk with Me who just randomly shows up with like the mud smeared all over her face.
Yeah.
Are these the characters you were talking about who kind of represent her and what she maybe was?
Yes, I that's what I think. I don't have a lot of base for that connection, but that the sooty appearance of her face and everything I always felt was really odd. And
the fact that she just kind of comes, gets lynchy, then disappears.
Yeah.
And we never hear about that again. Kind of the same here, which I imagine we'll hear more about further in this. But
yeah.
No, I think I would agree with you, but
yeah,
just mainly because you're the expert on Twin Peaks at the table.
But, and that's the thing is I'm not really an expert in this. This is just the thing that I'm like, oh, soot on her face. Oh, that guy also has a black sooty appearance. They must be brother and sister. Maybe they're cousins. I don't know. We hear a lot about cousins in this show. But yeah, so I don't know. But we'll see more, and I think that could
Speaking about cousins, do we want to head over to the inbred facility house thing?
The inbred facility. The world of truck drivers.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's a world of truck drivers. Yeah, let's anything else with Buckhorn, like with that case that you guys wanted to point out? I mean, anything else? Sorry, I'm
trying to think. I'm trying to remember
gingerly
too.
around things. just in case.
When we first saw the body and like the eye was like shot, presumably, it kind of looked like Nadine when I
was thinking that
glanced
same
at it.
thing. Yeah.
And I was really freaked out when they said her name. I was like,
This
oh,
is how
okay.
Nadine has died.
Nadine's fine.
Yeah,
Her
so
eye is rotted out.
Yeah.
yeah, and it's her left eye, which is a thing,
Yeah.
and possibly Phyllis. That wound looks similar at least.
So that's why I
Right.
thought that she was also shot in the back of the head, and the exit wound was in her
Yeah.
eye area. The exit, yeah.
Did anyone notice anything weird about the moment that Phyllis gets shot?
Yes.
Okay.
I was like gonna ask you about this.
Like
I totally forgot.
the blood.
Oh, yeah.
Like
there's
that-
there's a blur.
Yeah,
Was it a blur? Yeah, I couldn't. It looked kind of like there was supposed to be like blood splatter or something that came out, but it like cut weird. Like I don't know.
It's before
yeah.
she's hit though.
Is it? Okay.
And
There's weird. Yeah,
It almost reminded me of in A New Hope when they stun Princess Leia at the beginning. It's like kind of that same shot, and like, but instead of blue rings of a stun, it was just like this blur ring. Which I was wondering if that was a like weird Lynchy thing, or if that was like supposed to be like the air disturbance of a bullet flying through the air
Yeah.
type of thing.
But Cooper
Yeah.
Evil Cooper does say, like, you've done a good job acting natural. I don't know. Something he implies that she is something other than a normal human. So maybe that is like something leaving the human body.
Oh, I thought that was more of like
It
a reference
is.
of like
Yeah.
he wasn't human, and it's just kind of like his condescending
Oh, okay.
being like, "Oh, you're just like a human." Like,
Yeah, I will say it might be worth going back to that scene, just going frame by frame. I don't know. Just take a look. There is some weird shit going on.
okay,
Yeah. So let's.
I didn't even notice.
I noticed there was something weird. I was like, oh, that scene was cut weird.
I will say, be prepared, especially just as you're watching the next few episodes. Get used to if you feel like you notice something weird, jump back and just rewatch it. Just check it, because there's some weird stuff that you could miss. But there are times when I initially watched this that I instinctually felt like, what the fuck is going on there? And I was like, probably just a dumb thing. But going back and watching it again, I was like, holy shit, there's something weird going on there that I missed. So it's a good habit to get into.
Okay. All right.
Good habit.
Good to know.
Cool. Let's talk Mr. C a little bit more.
C.
Let's talk about. Yes, please let that be his entrance. Yeah, let's talk about I love his intro. I love the song and music that plays as he's driving into the backwoods of, I presumably South Dakota or somewhere near there, to Beulah's house. just,
Beulah's incest house.
oh gosh.
Are those people related?
I just assume because they all
Really?
like, the gene
Yeah,
pool
it's
gets
a
small
scene.
and how things happen, and everyone in that room seemed like that might be the case.
Something was a little off. Yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about that. What are your guys' impressions? That's the first time that we see Mr. C, or like that. That's the first time we see Kyle MacLachlan,
Yep.
other than old
Black Wall.
footage that we see at
Right.
the very beginning, right?
He punches that dude in the face.
Well, don't we
as
see?
soon as he gets out.
Don't we see him with the giant first?
Oh, you're right. You're right.
Okay.
But yeah,
All right,
you're,
that's
you're
right.
absolutely the first scene, and then they have the intro, and then he's the first scene, and then this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know. I mean, I knew we must see presumably Bob Cooper or some sort of evil, which it didn't really. He looks like Bob and Cooper had a baby. Maybe with some Bob E mixed up in there. But yeah, I guess I just was shocked we saw this, but I was happy to know that I was worried he was going to ruin Cooper's reputation in Twin Peaks. So I was kind of happy to see he's out doing his
Yeah,
own
they
thing.
just haven't seen him. Yeah.
As far as we know. But yeah, these people at first felt like they were just like trashy minions, maybe involved in some local crime, but it seems like Ray has some sort of connection to something bigger.
Yeah. Possibly Philip Jeffries. Like,
Right.
There are like
Yeah.
some weird references to that.
So with Cooper, I felt like at the end of season 2, it felt very much like it was him, but Bob was in him. Whereas opposed to this makes it just feel like it's his shadow self
Doppelganger.
that is
Yeah.
out there. But it was shown that Bob was in him, so it was like, is Bob still there, or is Bob? Did they separate? Or like, I'm very like, obviously that wasn't answered at all.
Right,
But
yeah.
I'm very confused at the state of things.
Well, like,
Yeah.
we talk about the possession of Leland. It felt like there were times when it was Leland, times when it was Bob. Leland was fighting back. Right now, it seems like real Cooper is only in the Black Lodge, which we kind of hear in Firewalk with Me, and Bob is only on the outside. So I don't know why it's two different types of possession, or it seems to me that way.
Oh, I think that raises also some questions on Leland then. Was that Leland's shadow self that was possessed during was he possessed? Was the real Leland sucked into the Black Lodge at a young age and has resided there for?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah.
25 years.
Well, and this episode, I feel like establishes kind of that even Black Lodge entities have doppelgangers.
Yeah.
Like the whole doppelganger of the arm thing, of the evolution of the arm.
Yeah.
It's a long title. The D of the evolution of the arm. Let's just call him that.
Have we talked about everything with arms yet? Have we kind of accumulated all of the information that
We've
we've been
talked
given?
a lot about it. We haven't reached any idea,
Right.
solid idea. But yeah.
There's going to be a bonus arm episode on our Patreon.
Well, and I think if we want to add to that pile of knowledge of just obscure bullshit related to arms,
Right. We have people's arms shaking.
Yes.
Right. We have
arms going numb of people who are wearing the ring.
True.
Teresa is mentioned. We see Laura's arm goes numb at some point.
At some point, we see Bob's arm. I don't know. He has like a spotlight on his arm while he's in the woods,
like coming out of the lodge or whatever.
The man from another place, and it's the same quote in this episode where he says something like, "I am the arm, and this is what I sound like, and I sound like this."
Yeah.
Lots of stuff.
Yeah. So I will say the other thing, this is a really obscure connection. Again, I don't know what this means. To me, the evolution of the arm looks kind of like a nerve or like neurons or whatever.
That's what I first thought it was when it, like, very briefly when it first cut down. I was like, oh, it's a nervous system. And then
and then in Firewalk with Me, there's kind of there's this very brief line that I don't know why it stuck out to me so hard this time when I was watching it, when they're talking to the waitress at Hap's Diner, and she's like, "Yeah, our arm went numb 3 days ago, probably to do with the drugs." And Sam's like, "Doesn't sound like a drug problem, sounds like a nerve problem." It's like this
interesting
throwaway, just little thing. But I've been thinking about that a lot in relation to arms going numb, and now the arm. The evolution of the arm.
The evolution of the arm.
Well, since we're talking about it now, I'll bring up what I was going to ask you to remind me about.
Go ahead, yeah.
So, okay. I haven't put this all together because it's still kind of like...
Yeah. It's really fresh, too. We literally just watched it. So,
so he's like a tree, right?
Sure, yeah.
And the arm is evolving into a tree. You have those sycamore trees up top, right? Mm-hmm. I'm thinking that... for every tree that's up there is kind of like a cycle that's been happening within the Black Lodge. And there's always like an arm, so to speak, or whoever he represents. And it seems like that world is starting to decay a bit. It's kind of being thrown into chaos. The part where Laura Palmer gets taken away is very much like, I don't know, things seem to be changing. Also, side note, because I talked about it so much previously, Venus de Milo statue, no longer the Venus de Milo statue. It's still a statue of a woman with no arms, but it's a different statue.
Yeah.
Just things are changing there. Things are degrading there. Obviously, it seems like these entities also might age as well. Mm-hmm. So whatever cycle is happening, it kind of is that tree's going to come up and become another tree.
Okay.
And there'll now be one more, and then another cycle will maybe start. I don't know.
Okay. That's interesting. Yeah. That's an interesting take.
Or they represent timelines. Like the split,
Okay.
like we talked about last time, like the splitting of a timeline.
Oh, yeah. We did.
And each tree represents that, and each time that happens. And I think it might have something to do with an entity spending too much time out of the lodge.
Okay.
And having too much effect on the real world.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Yeah, which it seems like Mr. C is doing some shit while he's out there. And we know that he's supposed to go into the Black Lodge, but he tells Daria he has a plan for that. That he's not going back there. So that's interesting.
Have we seen the Black Lodge yet?
I mean, yeah, I think. Yes. I would say yes.
Okay.
I think that space is, and we've talked about it. That's a complicated question to answer, I feel like. And I don't know that I have a definitive idea, but I would say yes. Yes.
Okay. Because like in the end of season 2, it was kind of established that the red room is almost like a waiting room,
right?
Which they've discussed. And then in Fire Walk with Me, when I first saw the room with kind of everybody in it, with the convenience store, the convenience store, I thought my initial thought was that's the Black Lodge.
Yeah.
And now we have a kind of a different location where Coop is talking to the giant, but it's all in black and white.
Right.
and we kind of don't know where this is. So it's really interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, we haven't really been given a lot of information about the White Lodge.
Right.
Well, I mean, I think it has to. I mean, it kind of has to be the Black Lodge because so many times it's been like, when they were talking through Sarah Palmer's like, I'm in the Black Lodge with Agent Cooper, so at least somewhere in there is the Black Lodge.
Yeah, but I think that is a good distinction to make. Is the convenience store? There are supernatural entities or energies that we have not seen in that space. Like notably, the giant was absent. Whereas, now we have this other new space that we have seen, this black and white area, where we've just seen Cooper and the giant and no one else. Whereas in the waiting room, if we want to call it that, we've seen everyone. So if it is like this neutral ground, I don't know. That's a good question, but I think those distinctions are important. And we've seen more of those within Firewalk with Me and in these episodes. Let's finish up some Mr. C stuff real quick and then talk more about the stuff that happens with Cooper. So we kind of talked. Mr. C is obviously heavily involved in this Buckhorn stuff. Yeah. Bill Hastings also mentions that he wasn't in Ruth Davenport's apartment that night, but he did have a dream that he was in her apartment that night, which is notable. Dreams are obviously very important in Twin Peaks. And then also Bill Hastings apparently had some information that Mr. C wants. But he's trying to get that from her secretary and then also presumably getting rid of her. That's what Jack was doing, was rigging her car with explosives, presumably, or something. And then Jack is dead also. So we basically see Mr. C just cleaning up everything that's happening in Buckhorn in a really clean way, I guess.
Really stepped up the violence and the amount of
just
like
you see some shit for sure. We also meet Jennifer Jason Leigh is in Twin Peaks and is just gross. Good for her.
She excels at that.
She really is. She really does play that really well. And then she's also great in Annihilation. Like I think Jennifer Jason Leigh is a really fun performer to watch. But she plays just gross person very well. I'm trying to think if there's anything else with Mr. C. We see him briefly from the Black Lodge as Cooper is looking down on him driving on some stretch of road. Let's talk about the Philip. Oh, go ahead.
Real briefly, we did not touch on. They have the warrant for Shaggy's house. I don't know.
Right, Bill Hastings. Yeah,
Bill's house, and then they search his car and they find just a hunk of meat.
Something, yeah.
Which I
hope it's human flesh.
Which would be hilarious if that's like because that's you said right where part one ends.
Right, yeah.
If that's like the big hook, and then just ends up being because his tackle box and stuff was about. It was just a piece of fish that had fallen out.
Yeah, that is an interesting thing.
I wanted them to open the.
There's probably something in there.
But David Lynch knew I wanted it.
Lots of mystery boxes in these episodes. Let's talk about. Was there anything else with Cooper? Oh, his conversation. Okay, first of all, Cooper's got some weird fucking technology going on. Or Mr. C has some weird shit. He has some kind of recorder that is recording conversations in real time. It's like the anti-Diane
No,
machine
that's
or
what I
something.
love. That's what I love about
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
That's exactly what I think whenever I see that. I'm like, it's way cooler than whatever Cooper had in the 90s.
It's Diane's shadow self.
Yeah, right. Well, and then he he has just another nondescript box that is connected to a computer in a briefcase, which he then hacks into the prison database and downloads the blueprints or something onto that recorder that
He just sets on top of it. Yeah, I don't.
It's called Bluetooth, okay?
David Lynch does
they've
not
got
give a
NFC
shit about your
chips.
technology.
That's how it works, you idiot. Yeah, no, but it's really bizarre. It's a weird seeing technology in Twin Peaks. I feel like is a weird.
It's so like when it cut to the Palmer's house, and then you see the Palmer's house like it is, except this big ass giant screen TV.
Yeah,
which I'm pretty sure is where Maddie was murdered in.
Yeah,
right?
Oh, yeah.
And you
I
just
believe so.
that's a weird thing to see.
Yeah,
and then you got Hawk using a cell phone, and it's really interesting. Like such a unique thing to see all of these characters forward in time.
Yeah,
and they're all old, and they're all like using technology, and it's like going back to your hometown and seeing how everyone has changed. It's
I want
so
someone
unique.
to hand Cooper an iPhone and have it confused like, what do I do this?
Well, and I think, I think that's another level to read this show on. I feel like is this very like metatextual thing where, we've mentioned the last couple of things that we've watched. The opening scenes are very important. There's the opening shot in Fire Walk with Me is that TV that just gets fucking smashed, which feels like a very direct message about what that is. In this, we get some shots of some very familiar places. I think most notably, you see the mill from Twin Peaks, which the opening credits of Twin Peaks feature the mill working, chopping wood. And in this, you just see this foggy shot of this old, rundown, defunct mill that is no longer operational. And that feels like this weird recognition of like times of like Twin Peaks is different. Like times have changed. It is 2017 in Twin Peaks, and that could be an important thing. You know what I mean? Like you are going to see these very different things. But yeah, we'll I'm sure we'll talk more about that. But let's talk about the Philip Jeffries conversation as well. He talks to someone on the phone that he, at least at the beginning of the conversation, believes is Philip Jeffries. And by the end of the conversation, he's not really sure if it's Philip Jeffries. I think the notable thing that that voice says is, I know you're going... Does he say Black Lodge on the phone?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he does.
He mentions the Lodge.
I thought he said
Black
something
Lodge
about
or
he's going back in.
You're going back in? Yeah, that might be it. And then he says, and I'll be with Bob again. Which I don't know exactly who to parse out as the possibilities of who that voice could be based on what we have. But I think it's an interesting thing that is said.
If it is Philip Jeffries, we know that he has been in the lodge,
right?
Presumably when Bob was there. So
yeah, that he was at one of their meetings above the community. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So that could make sense. But if that is him,
right?
Philip Jeffries is David Bowie's
character.
Yeah. Okay,
doesn't sound like David Bowie. Doesn't sound like that character, at least. And we talked briefly about that, but we'll talk about it more later. So yeah, let's talk about the lodge and kind of the glass box resolution or whatever happens at the end of that.
Oh man.
All of it.
Yeah. Let's just start with Cooper. And let's just start with Cooper and kind of go through and talk about it like that, I guess.
Yeah.
So we briefly mentioned his meeting with who we've been calling the Giant, who Katie was very perceptive. I was glad someone caught in the credits. He's just credited as like 9 question marks or something after his name, which is interesting. But yeah, what did you guys think about? Because that's the opening, first real scene, I guess, of new footage that we get. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
Well, he gives us another sound cue. Something to listen for, which you've mentioned how important the audio is.
Yeah,
and then I can't remember what else he said. What else he
gives him the number 430.
Is that where that
remember it?
He tells him?
Yeah,
and then 2 names.
Yeah.
Oh, I think I wrote
Richard and Linda.
Okay,
is what he says, and then he says 2 birds with 1 stone.
Mm-hmm.
So that number hasn't come up again. Those names haven't come up yet, have they?
No.
And then later, we're also given another number. The evolution of the arm gives us 253. I was trying to pay attention. I was like, okay, is that the number of the the apartment? Is that the address? But I didn't get anything. There's nothing.
Yeah.
because I from the beginning when like those things were said, I'm like, okay, we're gonna get answers to this plus more questions by the end of this because that's how the pilot worked for season 1.
Yeah.
And this just moves so much slower that
Mm-hmm.
I was in the wrong state of mind. I feel like for watching this because I was like looking for all those things when I missed paying attention to other things that were brought up.
Yeah. There's a lot. So Cooper says he understands whatever the giant says to him, but I think the last thing the giant says is "you are far away." Don't know exactly what that means, but then he phases out of that room. So I don't know. But it's great. I like it. That's the shit. I just enjoy it. I just chewing on it and like turning it around.
And then after that, is that I think the next time we see Coop in that situation, or I guess in the Red Room in the lodge or whatever, is with old Laura Palmer. Mm-hmm. Is that right?
Yeah.
And then she tells him that he can go. She says, "You can go now."
Mm-hmm.
Obviously,
well, first
not.
he's with
Mike.
Yeah.
and he says, "Is this the future or the past?"
Which we see again later in the sequence.
Yeah, which would I feel like supports that multiple timeline theory. That's 2 separate timelines where that's happening. I think, but I have no idea how or why or
Well, and I think like that scene with Laura Palmer is familiar. Which I think we kind of talk about this with the missing pieces too, is you have the scene with Cooper in the arm where they go in, there's the ring on the table, and then there's also the scene where they do that same thing, but the ring is not on the table and it's slightly different.
Yeah.
And it's weird because it kind of hints at the idea that Cooper has just been going through these same moments, possibly just over and over and over. But we do have this variation with the Laura Palmer scene. Some cool, weird shit happens. She does say, "This is Laura Palmer." Previously it's been, "I am her cousin. I feel like I know her," that kind of thing.
But at the beginning of the scene, she does say something else first. She says, like, "I feel like," isn't that?
He says that, yeah, which is a line
she
said
says,
previously.
"Yes." Then she confirms she is Laura Palmer.
Yeah. So it's weird.
And she takes her face off.
Takes her face,
And it's just big glowy.
Which is also there's kind of that hole in her face, which is also reminiscent of, we'll talk about it later, but that figure that's in the box
Yes.
also has kind of a missing cavity in the face area.
Yeah.
And is also a woman. So could be either, I mean, I don't think it's Laura Palmer, but there's some connection there, I feel like.
Yeah.
And also when it kind of replays his dream a little bit. She walks over to him and whispers in his ear, but you can tell she doesn't say the same thing. She says something much longer. And I was like watching her mouth to see if she said, "My father's the one who killed me."
Right.
And it wasn't anywhere close. So it's something new.
So, okay, I am going to mention this sound cue. So we talked about the Judy thing at the end of Firewalk with Me. So in this scene, probably the best way to notice it, turn it up really loud or turn the subtitles on at this moment. After she kisses him, she moves away, and then there's a voice that very quietly says "whisper," and then Laura Palmer goes to whisper in his ear. Don't know what that is, but I think it's notable because that happens. She whispers, and then as she's walking away, she has that. She looks up, screams, gets yanked just up, and then there's like this wind that blows through and blows up the curtains, and you see
the pale horse.
Yeah,
which only appears when somebody gets murdered.
Right, and we've seen twice. Sarah Palmer is the one that sees it both times, I feel like. Correct? Are there other times I'm forgetting? Because there's when Maddie is killed, because she crawls down the stairs, that whole thing, sees the white horse. And then she also sees the white horse in Firewalk with Me. I believe it's after she's been drugged. She's laying in bed.
And it
she
appears in
sees
her
it.
room.
Yeah.
Oh.
So it's the only time we've seen it.
Okay.
Throw that on the pile of information that we've accumulated. So yeah, interesting. I love that scene. I love they do the effects in this show are they're not like good, but they're so specific, and I feel like they're so designed. I just like them. I don't know. It's like it's weird. It's a weird thing. But yeah, just that image of her getting pulled up and kind of having the curtains, which in this you get the imagery of the curtains a lot, like in the opening and stuff where they're shaking and they look like flames.
Yeah.
Kind of, you know what I mean? I don't know if you got that imagery. Yeah. And you kind of see that over her face as she's getting pulled up, which is really interesting and cool. But yeah, then we cut back to Mike again, just asking, is it future? Is it past? And then teleporting to the other corner and doing that cool hand thing. I don't know. The way that it is backwards just looks so... I kind of chuckle at it every time because I just like the way it looks.
So we've never seen Mike in the lodge before, have we?
Didn't we briefly in season 2 at the end?
Mm-hmm.
I think during the end, like the crazy nightmare sequence, he's in there briefly, but I can't think of any of it specifically.
I'm trying to remember. I'm not sure. Oh, we do see him in Firewalk with Me, because when Bob comes into the lodge with Leland, there's the scene where the man from another place holds on to his shoulder and they speak in unison, which I feel like kind of establishes that he's the arm. And then and Bob pulls the blood. And
I think that's what I'm
throws
thinking
it on
of.
the
That's the
ground.
only time we see him in
Yeah. Yeah, that's the main one I'm thinking of. I can't remember if there's in season 2, but-
Garmanbozia.
Yeah. But yeah, so then more with Cooper. He goes in and meets the evolution of the arm. We get that moment we mentioned that mimics Firewalk with Me, where we get that same information. The sound is slightly different because he doesn't have like a human mouth anymore. But I will say electricity too. We kind of mentioned how that plays a big part in Firewalk with Me. I think we see that a lot, and that's one of those things. Like, I wonder, is that what Mr. C is doing? Is like fucking with electricity? Is it basically like, I'm super powerful now because everything's connected to electricity? You know what I mean? Like, is that part of that, or I don't know. But we do get like electrical sound cues at different times, like as Cooper is going through the curtains sometimes. But yeah, so they talk about his doppelganger, how only one can be out, and then he tells him to go. Oh, he gives him a number, the 253 number, says time and time again, go now, and he goes out and tries to leave.
Is the last we see of Cooper when the floor opens up after he's attacked by the doppelganger of the arm?
Well, because we see him fall into the glass box.
Oh yeah,
after that.
Yeah.
And then he
Gets sucked back.
gets sucked back in, but then we don't see him after that, do we?
I think that's it, right?
No, we just see him falling more, and then
Yeah.
we cut to the roadhouse.
What's
Right.
interesting about the two timelines is we see that other creature in the box come in and kill the two people who are watching, and then
Supposedly just after he appears, right?
and then right before Cooper appears in there, they're there again. And so I wonder if that has to do with multiple timelines.
What do you guys think about the box and what that whole deal is? Why is
I think it's
there?
something to do with whatever Briggs is involved in. I think that not necessarily that Briggs is running it per se, but that whoever's kind of in charge of that, whether it be the military or some private thing. I want to say it's the same guy or woman who they're talking about when he's like,
In Vegas.
in Vegas.
Yeah.
And he's like, don't work for a guy who I'm pretty sure it's the same person who's in charge of that project.
Interesting.
I like the Briggs idea connection, and obviously there's like some sort of weird entity or money or power behind that. Just to think that he knows of some otherworldly shit that's getting put in our world, and before it was communication, and now you wonder if there's more coming in. We obviously see like the humanoid being break their way out of there, and then when Cooper goes in there, it was like it became levels and levels and levels of this box, and it shrinks down. Man, that's one of those things I don't think we're going to get an answer to.
It's all those different timelines. It's just cutting between all of them.
So, yeah, and I will say in the credits, so we have something to reference that being as. There is someone who's credited as the experiment model. Ooh. So, refer to that as the experiment or whatever. But yeah, I did want to mention we do hear the noise that the giant shares with Cooper right before the evolution of the arms doppelganger shows up and screams non-existent at him and throws him into a pool of water.
And before that, Coop had opened the curtain and looked like he was looking into the real world.
Yeah.
For a moment.
And we see Mr. C like driving in some desert.
I got to apologize for I ran out of nicknames for Evil Cooper.
No, those were incredible.
Those were some great names.
Yeah, there were more Coopers than I realized. But yeah, so yeah, I think we kind of covered everything. Is there anything else that you guys are kind of dying to talk about?
Kim, I just have a general question, and I think I asked you about this like in season 1.
Okay.
If there are answers to all the different crazy zany lore that comes up behind this in this cosmic world, would David Lynch and Mark Frost agree on the answers?
Yes.
Okay. They do have a definitive, this is what we believe, the doppelgangers and the lodges and the timelines and the blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, I mean, I think as definitive as... okay.
As definitive as they took
this
it.
is as much as I can say, yeah. Okay. For myself, to me, the lodge and a lot of this lore revolves around things that are much bigger than humanity itself. You know what I mean?
Philosophical answers more than literal answers.
Exactly. And I think they are on the same page. Like I said, they co-wrote this.
Yeah.
This was them, working on everything together to write this. And so yeah, I think that they are on the same page as far as that goes. For sure. But yeah, I'm so excited that we're here. I am so excited that people I know are watching this. And I'm excited for you guys to see where it goes. So yeah, still a lot of characters that are familiar faces that we haven't seen that may show up. So that I'm always excited for that to all of that stuff. But so for next week, we're gonna watch parts 3, 4, and 5. Which will be a lot of stuff, so it'll be fun to talk about. But 3, 4, and 5 of season 3. Again, if you have anything you want to talk to us about, any questions, any theories, you can send them to us at rewatchersonthepod@gmail.com or on Twitter @rewatcherspod. And we'll take a quick break real quick and do a quick recommendation section, and then be good to go. But yeah, we'll see you after this. Welcome back to Recommendations, where we talk about just the other stuff we're watching to keep us satisfied between Twin Peaks sessions. That's basically my entire life, is just finding things to fill the time when I should be
waiting a long time for the
Twin
next
Peaks.
batch.
Yeah. So I watched a couple things this week. I went and saw a movie that kind of popped on my... I think me and Mitchell were talking about it. It popped on my radar literally the day I went and saw it this Monday. It's a movie called The Peanut Butter Falcon.
Okay.
It's got Shia LaBeouf in it.
I was just going to ask.
Yeah. And it's about a man with Down syndrome who... doesn't have any family, has been put in a old folks home, and all he wants to do is run away and go to a wrestling school. And it's delightful. I loved it. I want to go see it again. I told Mitchell, I was like, it's not a perfect movie. I'd probably give it a 3 out of 5. But I just had so much fun. All the highs in it for me were more than enough to make up for the things I didn't love about it. And it's just a really fun, great summer kind of road movie about this kid who runs away to go pursue his dreams of being a professional wrestler. It's really good. Good year for wrestling movies. And then the second thing I watched this week is tangentially related to Twin Peaks, but is the 1950 film Sunset Boulevard, directed by Billy Wilder. It's a noir classic, though less traditional noir, I feel like, than you might be used to, but it is where Gordon Cole got his name. There's a kind of throwaway character in Sunset Boulevard named Gordon Cole, which is where David Lynch took the name from. But it's just it's very noir. It's got some great noir writing and voiceover throughout the movie about this guy, and it's really kind of this indictment of Hollywood culture and specifically the way it treats women and
aging women, which we've really solved that now here 70 years later.
Yeah. But yeah, it is one of those movies that is extremely relevant and still holds up extremely well. It's beautifully shot, and like I said, the dialogue in it is just so good. Like there's just stuff I was just laughing because like, God, I just want to write a line like that once. So damn good. But yeah, so those are the things I watched this week. They're both really great. So check them out. Marcus, do you have something for recommendations?
Nothing. Nothing I really want to recommend. I watched a lot of kind of garbage. Just I saw Hobbs and Shaw, which it was.
Don't shit on Hobbs and Shaw right now. Don't make me spend my recommendation time telling you why you're wrong.
All right,
please don't make him do this.
The thing is, I like the like newer Fast and Furious movies, like Fast 7. I think it's a great time. I think it's fun. It's goofy. Like you can just get into it. It was hard for me to get into Hobbs and Shaw. It was a little too much for me.
That's interesting because I think it's a better comedy than people give it credit for.
I don't
That's
think
all
it's
I'm gonna
funny.
Say. Those two well,
that's all you're gonna say.
That's all. That's all we're gonna say.
I'm not gonna pull any more out of you. Riley, do you have any recommendations this week?
I mean, I saw a crappy movie too, so I can't really recommend
What
it.
was it?
Blinded by the Light.
Oh, was it? No,
It's bad.
Oh boy.
I'm a sucker for a coming of age movie in England, so I wanted to like it, but I don't.
Is
even
that
care
the
for
Bruce
the music
Springsteen
at all.
one?
Yeah.
Yeah, fuck that.
Yeah. It's not good.
Oh man, that's too bad.
Mm-hmm.
So Tyler, what's your favorite Springsteen album?
Ugh. So I didn't finish either of the movies I started. I'm going to. I started A Scanner Darkly, which has been on my list for a long time, and I saw it was on Amazon Prime. I was like, I wasn't really in the mood to watch it, and I haven't been, but since it's on my list, I just had to try it.
Right.
And it's really weird. It's hard to recommend. It's definitely something that I can see. Like, I haven't read the book, but I can see it working a lot better as a book. I feel like that movie's famous for its visual style that it has,
because it's like animated, sort of.
Yeah, it's like it's very comic book looking, but for what reason I can't really tell you.
Yeah, because it was like filmed, right? I mean,
it's filmed live action, and then they just kind of. I don't think they used a filter. I think they might have used a filter and also went over and drew some things over it. It doesn't feel like it was. It feels like a gimmick, kind of. There are moments where it's like there's a specific thing in the story where they wear like a suit for like undercover cops that is like constantly changing.
Oh, cool!
Like it's a pretty cool effect, and it's like that would have been pretty hard to make look convincing when this was made. With live action, so that works. But it's very unsettling because, just because of how lighting works and with like filters and stuff, the cell shaded lighting on everyone's like face and stuff is always in motion, even when they're sitting still. So it's very like and like there's no depth in the movie because of it too. There's too much detail in the background, and like because there's like more shading in the backgrounds than there are on people. And so there's no depth to it, so shots aren't as... I don't know. It's weird, and it also feels just like, presentation-wise, like not gimmicky, just quirky for the sake of being quirky. Like, everyone's dialogue is just like very like, look how wacky I am, because we're wacky. And but there are some good things about it. It's Philip K. Dick. It's a lot of interesting... it's interesting to see like a sci-fi novel adapted to be like... It feels much closer to our day. It feels very present day stuff, technology wise, at least. There are some things that are more advanced, but it feels a lot more like our day. But also, kind of what Justin mentioned with A Clockwork Orange a couple weeks ago. It's like, I think like more so with this story. It's like this is a lot closer to what we currently have to deal with, and some problems we have government wise. That it's like hard to see it as a sci-fi thing, and it's also like kind of like preaching to the choir. It feels like almost it's like we yeah, this is normal news.
Yeah.
And then the other movie I started was Invader Zim, the Invader Zim movie on Netflix, which I got like 5 minutes in. I'm like, I think I'll have to watch this in like 15-minute chunks because it's just too much to. I mean, I'm only watching it for the nostalgia factor.
Yeah.
And that's it. Also, I don't know if this is a good time. I totally forgot to talk about my dream with Andy.
Oh, I forgot. Let's talk about it.
Okay, so I had a dream the other night where I don't remember how it really started, but at some point in the dream it led me to the campus of Brigham Young University. And
Oh shit.
Andy from Twin Peaks, it felt like it was Andy in between season 2 and The Return, because he was older than season 2, but not as old as he is in The Return.
Okay.
And he was like, I've got to show you my sweet go-kart I got. And he shows me a go-kart, which is Mario's go-kart from Mario Kart. And it's like a one-seater, right? Like really low to the ground. He's like, we should take this for a ride. I'm like, hell yeah. It's like really late at night. And he's like, climb on. So he hops in. It's a one-seater, but somehow I am sitting
on his lap.
I'm like straddling
Your little
his back.
spoon? Oh, okay.
Like on a roller coaster ride type
Okay,
of thing.
yeah,
And I'm
okay.
but kind of like a motorcycle because I'm like holding onto his back. And
Double dash.
he's just doing some crazy shit around that whole area. Like, we're driving through the streets, we're cutting through like gated properties, and he's like doing donuts. At one point, there's like a rope attached to the back that's swinging like a steel ball around, but that's all of a sudden gone because that's how my dreams work. And then we get pulled over. Like a cop comes and like starts questioning us. He detains us, and he's freaking out because he's like, I am a cop, and Sheriff Truman is going to be so mad at me because I was breaking the law with his go-kart.
Did he cry to try to get out of the
Unfortunately, no. But he was very panicked. Like, and I was panicked at first, but I was like, dude, just chill out. Like, we got to keep our cool here if we're going to get out of this. And we were just being questioned forever. And then that's when I woke up. But
Nice. That's important.
yeah.
Twin Peaks in dreams is even more important than dreams in Twin Peaks.
Yeah, so now I'm like worried what this means for me and my future, but
Sounds pretty good to me. So,
I recommend Twin Peaks Dreams, 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10. I'll be real quick. I finished Killing Eve, which is amazing, keeps you guessing, has beautiful tension. Phoebe Waller-Bridge is the best person writing right now, I think. And then I got really into documentaries, so I watched a bunch of random ones on Netflix. A lot about like commerce, which is not really my thing, but just super interesting, kind of good to know. But the best thing I watched was there's a 6-part documentary. It's not 6 parts, they're all individual. They're on Amazon, called This Is Football, and they're about soccer. But the first one is about the Rwandan genocide, and it's connected to soccer, but it's really about the Rwandan genocide. And if you've never seen Hotel Rwanda, it's a really good movie. And that it's this tiny African country, but they have a really crazy story, and it's not that old. This genocide happened in the mid to late 90s, and they're still recovering. So that is the best one I saw, but I've watched 3 of them. And I don't think you have to be a big sports fan to like sports documentaries. I think a lot of people who don't give a shit about sports really like 30 for 30. So I'd recommend those on Amazon. They're really well done.
cool. Awesome. Justin, do you have any recommendations this week?
Yeah, I didn't watch this week, but Mitchell, your documentary thing, like that reminded me in soccer specifically. If anybody hasn't watched the 30 for 30 called Hillsborough, about the Hillsborough tragedy, watch that because it's incredible. You should. I watched that years ago, and that just you reminded me of that. So
Yeah, that one's really good.
yeah, you should watch that. Recommendations. It's kind of like, so the trailer for El Camino dropped, or the teaser, I guess, for El
Okay,
Camino
right.
dropped
Yeah, I
this
watched
week.
that today, yeah.
So if you haven't participated in the Breaking Bad universe, then now is as good of a time as any to possibly try and get caught up for.
Well, I'm like, should I start, or are we going to
El
do that
Camino.
next? You know,
Who
so
knows?
If they would have given us a year of notice, we could have done Breaking Bad.
we
next.
could have, yeah.
What do you feel about Better Call Saul? Because I've watched Breaking Bad, love it. I think it's great, and I think I like Better Call Saul, but I have not watched it yet.
I think Better Call Saul is the better of the two, actually.
Really?
I do, yeah.
Oh man, that's
It's
I
an
mean, they're
incredibly
so,
different show.
they're
Yeah,
so
yeah.
different,
Yeah.
but it's like the writing has just been perfected in Better Call Saul, in my opinion. And it's so good.
Excited.
I've only watched what's on Netflix, which I think is missing the latest season.
Yeah.
I can't remember for sure because they're like a season behind whatever has been released. But yeah, it's I love Breaking Bad, but Better Call Saul is really, really good.
It's a big commitment, but I'm gonna make it sometime.
Yeah,
it was a good weekend for trailers too. I mean, Mandalorian, a few other things at D23. So
yeah. 3 years from now, Disney will be the only person making movies, so enjoy them while you can. That's it for us, signing off from the Black Lodge. We'll see you next week. My name's Tyler Harris.
Marcus Marinos.
Riley Harris.
Tyler McKinley.
Mitchell Marshall.
Justin Hammer.
See you later.
Bye.
Hey.